I'm Jay.
I'm Sean.
We're assholes watching movies. This week, Sean and I were super busy watching movies. We saw Florence Foster Jenkins, which was good.
Great.
Then we saw Anthropoid.
Tough.
Then we saw Sausage Party.
Terrible.
Then we saw Pete's Dragon.
Pretty good.
And Matt rewatched Suicide Squad.
I rewatched Suicide Squad.
We don't know.
And The King's Speech. Yeah.
Okay, so Suicide Squad, now that you're a two-timer,
Yep.
one of the very few, it still made some money this week, but it had like a 70% drop off, which is to be expected, since word of mouth is pretty bad. So let's talk about some of the Suicide Squad that we haven't discussed yet.
Okay.
And considering we had 2 reviews up,
2 reviews up.
we went through a lot of stuff. But let's start with the Joker and Harley, which Suicide Squad almost seemed to just want to be the Joker and Harley, and then lost its nerve and dropped a lot of Joker and Harley stuff. And you guys know more about this than I do. I'm not a comic book person, so I only know what I saw in the movie, which was a bit confusing. But what is this relationship between Harley and the Joker? Because Jared Leto's Joker obviously is a different Joker than we've seen before. He seems less ruthless or less crazy, certainly, than Heath Ledger's Joker, who I cannot imagine having a girlfriend.
Right.
But this guy not only has a girlfriend, but seems to genuinely care for her, which is a bit weird.
Well, yeah, well, yes and no. And he feels very possessive of her.
He
and
does.
is enraged when she is taken from him.
Yeah.
I don't see if we see too much tenderness.
Well, he jumps in a vat of acid to rescue her, which is something. He goes to great lengths to bust her out of not just prison, but also the Suicide Squad itself.
Right.
He rescues her spends the whole movie rescuing her. So that's sort of, I think, somewhat motivated by his...
It is. I mean, it's a certainly more human Joker than Heath Ledger played. Heath Ledger played him more as a symbol of anarchy, and they wanted him to be as unknowable to the audience as possible. Whereas this is a slightly more relatable Joker, I guess, if you want. I actually felt he was a little un-Jokerish, and a lot more like a gang leader, which I was fine with. But other than that, the relationship between them, everything I know from the comics, this is pretty faithful. I mean, it's unfaithful to the DC comics in a lot of ways, but in this case, yeah, the comics, this is a lot of it's a sort of abusive relationship.
But we don't really see that side in this movie.
Well, apart from the fact that he tortures her into being herself.
Well, I mean, that is the weird...
She jumps.
Yes.
But he also forces her into electroshock therapy.
Yes. And why is that necessary? Since we see she's already so in love that she's willing to smuggle in guns. Like, that just seemed completely unnecessary. So I didn't really even know why they would put that in.
Of course, I would have loved to have seen more of that. I would have loved, I would have done away with 80% of the movie to see more of that. Because it is hard. You introduce them in this scene. That was one of the first scenes I was excited about in the movie. And it very quickly comes to a Jew smuggling machine gun for me, which I thought was moving a little quick for my taste. Even though, yes, this is supposed to be a relationship that's evolved over months.
Classic romantic Matthew.
Yeah, I would have liked to have seen. I would have liked to have seen more courtship.
Okay.
More like kisses on the cheek, and but there it is. It's like first date. Would you smuggle in a machine gun for me?
And she would. Like, she's already that far gone somehow. She would. So then why does he need to shock her? Like,
that might just be him being the Joker.
And she seemed to genuinely not be up for that.
Yeah, well, she was strapped down.
So then how is she still in love with him?
Because he broke her.
But she was already broken.
He re-broke her.
He re-broke her.
He broke her even more, and then he had to break her even more by having her jump in the acid.
Yes.
I mean, I would have loved to have seen the stuff that ties us together. I would have loved to have seen their first meeting. I could have seen a whole movie about the two of them.
And I think we needed to see more of her just pre him.
Yes.
Because I think I said something in my review about like where does her accent come from? Like, so, you know, now that she's Harley, she used to be this like PhD educated woman, and now suddenly she has a terrible like.
New Jersey accent.
Yeah.
Well, she looks like the PhD educated woman in like a porn now.
Yes. Yeah.
That with the glasses and almost the lab coat, I was like, that's not what they really do, is it?
No, it's
But
not.
yeah, no, the accent though shows up though when she's tied down.
Mm-hmm.
So the accent develops when she falls in love.
Yeah. Again, I take issue with that. Like, I've been in love once or twice myself, and I really,
Your accent has remained consistent.
pretty much, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So, but I think a lot of the problems with that storyline is that so much was, sped through that we didn't get to see. They really, are an interesting pair, but we don't know enough about them, and it just was frustrating that they just took so many leaps.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know why the Joker was in that movie.
Well, they needed him sort of to introduce her.
No, they didn't.
They didn't. Well,
She's her own character.
yeah. Her origin is so tied to him. Although I was not a fan of the origin stories anyway.
Like, she's not a traditional Batman comic book character.
No.
Like, she comes from the cartoon
Right.
that they then worked into the comic books.
Mm-hmm.
So she can be anything.
Yeah.
You don't need to have her tied to the Joker. She's a relatively new character that you can make whatever you want her to
They
be.
certainly remade her look according to the video game, I think, rather than anything we've seen in comic book or
Yeah.
cartoon.
They teased the traditional look once or twice, but generally, yeah, it was the. And the look got an awful lot of comments. I wasn't particularly bothered by it.
Of course not.
We're used to this stuff in comics anyway, so
That doesn't make it
in comic
okay.
book movies and
Like, every man is covered head to tip in latex, and every woman is wearing shredded nylons and not much else. I don't know why, like, the men are all really protective of their skin, but
yeah.
anyways, okay, so do you like the new Joker? We hardly saw
No,
him. I
don't-
wasn't crazy about what Jared Leto was doing, but I feel hard even judging it based on, like, I think 8 minutes of screen time
Yeah.
it got in the end.
I hear 8 minutes.
Mhm.
I don't know who decided to start.
Somebody
timing.
counted.
Somebody,
Somebody who's not us definitely counted.
I'm interested in it.
Mhm.
I'm curious about it. I think it differs enough from other Jokers. I was I kind of liked it, but I feel the same way. Like I can't endorse it too strongly. I feel like I really don't even have a picture of what he did because it was such a brief appearance
Mhm.
that I really don't quite understand what they're going for. And especially since so much was filmed that wasn't used,
Mhm.
there's this whole picture that we're not
That we
seeing.
didn't see.
And I really don't understand why you would cut out someone that popular.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand why he's in there in the first place. You must be setting him up to be in another movie, which has to be a Batman movie because he's not going to be the villain for Justice League.
No.
But Joker is the last villain that you should be using because he was done so well by Heath Ledger, and that was only
Recently.
2 Batman movies ago.
Yeah.
So it makes no sense.
So then are you not excited to see this Joker fight Batman?
No, I don't want to see the Joker fight Batman. I don't want to see him ever again.
Really?
It was because I thought Batman had some kind of lame cameos in this.
Yes.
You know, and the Flash, who we generously said was in this movie, was like, Jared Leto got 8 minutes. I don't know if this guy got 8 seconds.
No, he had one line. And Batman might have had one line, but you saw more.
You
of him.
saw more.
Where this was really it really was like a 2-second thing. And that was a way worse cameo than Batman, because at least Batman has been introduced as Ben Affleck, so there's like a nice nod. I enjoyed him popping up to fight Deadshot for a second.
Okay.
I liked the way he
I didn't like the
entered
way he
scene.
stood behind a little girl. I was like, well, like, so what is Batman hiding behind little girls? That's
He
creepy.
Yeah.
I
Well,
know he does.
this
That's
is
kind of his thing. So why was he doing that in this?
No one knows. But I'm more interested to see a Flash based on 8 seconds of him in that movie than I ever am of the Joker, of that Joker.
Okay.
Like, I am excited to see Ezra Miller. I think he's going to be really good.
Me too, but I don't think they should just be dropping him like that.
Mhm.
Like the 2 tiny cameos.
Yeah.
I feel like they don't understand cameos in those last 2 movies.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I really feel like Ezra Miller's Flash should be introduced in either the Flash movie or the Justice League one, and not just give away the costume for a second and give him one line, because that kind of kills the introduction.
But do you need an introduction? He's the Flash.
He is, but he's the first, at least, well, the first live-action Flash in the movies that I know of. So you might want a big reveal. You don't even know, they're actually not doing an origin story, I understand.
Well, and that's good. We don't
Yeah.
need an origin story for the Flash because it doesn't matter. He's just a fast guy. And I think that's already established. So
Yeah.
let's just get on with it.
Just keep moving.
Yeah.
Okay, so speaking of the Justice League, where the fuck were they? So whatever it's called, Midway City, is that right?
Mhm.
Is like being taken over by an enchantress, evacuated, shot up, and yet none of them even like do a flyby.
Well, that's the question
Up with
is
that.
why none of them are there. Because
Yeah.
it's clear from the end,
Mhm.
the mid-credit scene,
Mhm.
Justice League doesn't exist yet.
Yeah.
Batman's next step is going to be to get them together. But these heroes still exist. So
They
Yeah.
still exist. We know Batman's around. We know the
We know the
Flash
Flash
is
is
around.
already catching bad guys.
Wonder Woman is
Buck-
around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because she's already popped up. Superman is dead
Yeah.
because,
Yeah.
he's dead. And
Aquaman, we
Aquaman,
can understand why he's not
yeah,
there. He
yeah.
seems to be a recluse.
Well, yeah, is he like confined underwater? Or
No,
can
he's
he even come
not.
out?
He's
Okay.
living above land, I think.
Oh.
In this, and
It's
in
like a
most
cheat.
in most incarnations of Aquaman, I think, or at least most modern ones. But him, I understand why he's not there. Everyone else, and Superman is dead. But I was kind of frustrated with the post-credit scene. I mean, it was nice to see Ben Affleck again. Like 10 years ago, I would never believe I'd ever say that ever. But this whole thing felt like they were teasing something they'd already teased. Because I felt like he already had files on these people from stealing them from Lex
Yeah,
Luthor,
exactly.
and now he's getting them from Amanda Waller. It felt like doubling
Mhm.
just to tease the same movie again.
Yeah.
And why is Cyborg not even in that?
what's he going to do?
Oh, well, I just mean, like, why didn't that file show up? Because they already introduced him on Lex Luthor's thing. So I would have liked to have seen him mentioned along with Aquaman and the Flash. Because he's been introduced in the next one, and he could be an exciting character.
He could be, but I don't, like, DC is doing weird things because you don't have to have, like, Batman versus Superman. Like, don't just give us a video clip of 5 seconds of all of these guys. Like,
Mhm.
you don't have to tell us specifically. We already know
Yeah.
they're going to come. We don't
Yeah.
need to see them, all of them in every movie.
No, and again, to me, that's killing it. Like, you saw an image of him as Aquaman. The Flash wasn't in costume for that, but Aquaman he did. And just, like, save that. Like, don't waste that in a stupid scene. That actually reminded me a lot of the Joel Schumacher movies, that scene. Like how, like, Batgirl, like, Alicia Silverstone would show up in the Batcave and, like, Alfred has a suit ready for her.
Mhm.
Like, it felt just like that. Like, just like, it makes no sense, but we're just rushing it like that.
Well, and it's even worse than Joel Schumacher's, I would say, because Alicia Silverstone was supposed to be Batgirl and be in that movie.
Yeah.
You don't need any of these other guys in the movie, and it's already dragging, and like
Yeah.
they're cutting out the Joker, and
Mhm.
hey, just cut out these stupid cameos that have nothing to do with the story.
Right.
Mhm. They're not adding to the story, and like it was already bloated, and yet we feel like we didn't really get to know anyone. Lots of people's either backstory was cut or the like dream sequence that like not everybody got those basic things. So what's
Yeah.
and so going in like trailer versus movie? Did you have high hopes with the trailer? Did you think the trailer looked bad? Like where?
Trailer looked good.
Sure, that looked good, yeah.
Trailer looked like this movie should have been, which was kind of crazy and irreverent and fun. And the movie was not any of those things. It was just, it's the bad guys, but really they're still kind of heroes, which, okay, that's part of it, like the Suicide Squad, but there was nothing different. It was just another thing where there was a city, and then we sent in these guys to save the world, and they did.
Well, they did advertise as being like, we're not talking Guardians of the Galaxy here. These aren't, criminals that are still good. These are villains. Whereas the movie itself didn't separate itself enough from Guardians of the Galaxy, where here these are, yes, criminals, but we were really seeing almost these, kind of good guys in a sense.
Yeah, they were billed as super villains and yet crazy obedient. I felt. And okay, they did have like a neck bomb, which apparently was like sponsored by Batman's company.
Yeah.
Like he's totally against whatever this project is called, the Suicide Squad, and yet he's not above making money
He's
off
still
of
an
their
arms
slogan.
dealer.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hey, he needs to make money.
But once he assembles the Justice League, they're gonna put a stop
then
to
there's
this.
gonna be
They're
a
gonna stop
crackdown.
to this.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just speaking of trailer versus movie, would you be willing then to join the lawsuit that is suing the trailer people, the movie people, even the movie theaters, because I thought I was going to see a good movie and I didn't?
That's the stupidest lawsuit there is. Like, good job, whoever started that. That's asinine. Like,
Well,
that's
this is not
every
the first
trailer.
lawsuit of its kind, because a woman sued for Drive. Because that trailer made it look like it was the new Fast and Furious. And if you've seen the movie, there's some fast car driving,
Yeah.
but there's also a lot of like long macho stretches of Ryan Gosling and then like intense
head
gore.
stomping.
Yes.
Yeah.
So a woman sued and said like, A, I want a refund of my ticket. So, like that's a $12 lawsuit. But B, I want you to never make another misleading trailer again.
I also remember the trailer to that movie, and it didn't look like it was going to be these long moments of silence. Like,
It's hard to put that in a 30
it is hard to,
trailer, though.
but it didn't make it look like the next Fast and the Furious, so case dismissed.
Okay.
Red smacked.
Yeah, it's we should do it like this.
Trial by assholes.
But I mean, even if it did make it look like the next Fast and the Furious, like that's a stupid lawsuit.
Yes. It's a trailer.
Like we are all conned by trailers fair and square.
Yes. Okay.
And the only thing about Suicide Squad which I noticed, and a review mentioned it before I noticed, but the more I think of it, it's absolutely true. Suicide Squad had tons of stuff in the trailer that didn't make it into the movie.
Absolutely.
Even conflicting scenes.
Yes. And the lawsuit does mention that.
Yes, and I have
False advertising, they said.
They should sue because the scene about what drink they're all having is in the movie.
I really wanted to know the answer to that.
I paid $12 to see a scene I already saw 20 times on YouTube.
But that's a really sad part of this is like DC just reshooting all of whatever they were reshooting to make it funnier,
Yeah.
apparently or not. We don't really know. I don't know if they ever confirmed that, but it didn't work. And like, what was the original movie? Like, was it like
And will we
less
ever see
funny
it?
than this? Because, wow.
Well, it was supposed to have been darker. I have a suspicion that there's a decent version of
DC
this
is
movie
often
sitting around
darker.
somewhere. Yeah.
Like that's kind of their
And they
thing.
panicked after Batman vs.
Yeah.
Superman was, and then all these things, Marvel did a couple things like Deadpool that got them, they just panicked
Yes,
and threw
Ant-Man,
everything at
Guardians,
it.
those were all
Yeah.
funny.
Just
But,
don't
like-
lump in Deadpool with Marvel, though, Matthew.
Yeah.
Oh, that's absolutely true.
We could get sued for that.
Yeah.
Okay, so Suicide Squad, are we ready to put this one to bed now? Final thoughts?
I still am excited for Justice League, which I feel like a sucker, but
Well, I'm more excited for Wonder Woman than Justice League.
yeah, Wonder Woman's.
Yeah.
'Cause
We
it
saw
seems
the
like a
footage
more-
at Comic-Con.
Yeah.
How did you feel about that?
I felt really good about both, but at the same time, it's like, hey, this Justice League trailer actually looks kind of fun,
Yeah.
and so,
Yeah, but the Suicide Squad trailer looked kind of fun.
and that's
And you're
exactly
still ready
where,
to be taken
Yeah.
that's exactly where I'm like, how many times am I gonna fall for this?
Well, I was excited about Wonder Woman because it was Patty Jenkins directing it. Not so much because of her, although she's more legit than Zack Snyder. But I was just excited because it's someone other than Zack Snyder taking a stab at it. But that's what I felt about Suicide Squad. And David Ayer seems like an interesting filmmaker who is almost unrecognizable in Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
But I'm excited about Wonder Woman versus Justice League more because it seems like a more manageable story.
Yeah.
That they have
Well, they
less to
clearly
cut.
are not good at taking on such.
No, they're
Yeah,
really
it's hard.
bad.
Although, I mean, honestly, I don't like it when Marvel does it either. I get really frustrated when there's like 20 stars vying for screen time and you don't really get to know anyone, and it's just like so formulaic that because you never get to know anyone, so it's really just like, oh, here's the city, it's in peril by this villain. Let's all show up and do our thing, and we have to have like an internal conflict as well as the external conflict, and then, you know, like,
Yeah,
I'm so tired of it.
I know.
I know you know,
But the thing
you still
is,
make me
like,
see them all the time.
I know, but Marvel at least makes it an entertaining movie
Fun.
for what it is.
Yes.
DC, not yet.
Mhm.
So, I don't know, how many more chances do they need to, like, because it shouldn't, like, it's so formulaic, like, just rip off Marvel. Like, just watch those movies and do exactly what they did. That's the thing, it's like, this, from the trailer and the soundtrack, Suicide Squad, I mean, and the fact that it's villains, like, yeah, Guardians of the Galaxy is a natural fit, which, you know, Guardians of the Galaxy was a huge hit out of nowhere because no one even knew about that comic, right? And it's awesome, and it's funny, and it's really, like, you know, the characters grow together and you're cheering for them, and I don't know. Like, obviously that's not super easy to do, but it was right there.
Yeah.
And they could not even come close, and apparently they weren't even always trying to do it, which...
Well, I mean, they could have followed the exact same format as Marvel, really. It's just, you know, introduce a few characters in their individual movies, and if something doesn't take, like Edward Norton, you could recast or something.
Yeah, but that's not even, like, Guardians of the Galaxy wasn't even that, right? So
No, it
DC
wasn't.
has clearly decided they're going to do it backwards,
Yes.
which is weird.
Yeah.
But okay, you're going to be different.
Well, they didn't even introduce, say, Batman in his own movie or anything. They just tried to throw so many things in and try and catch up to Marvel as quickly as possible. But, I mean, what worked about Marvel was, you know, they even gave themselves an out. Like, if Iron Man wasn't successful, they could have just acted like they never really intended to go all out with the Avengers, and or DC really got too confident too quickly.
Committed.
And, yeah.
So maybe just quickly, we can discuss what Sean and I did yesterday in between all of our crazy movie going. Was we went out to Ottawa's Space and Aviation Museum
Oh, nice.
because they have an exhibit on right now where you get to join the Starfleet Academy
Wow.
and you try out for Star Trek. So it's an interactive exhibit, not unlike the Avengers one we went to in Vegas,
Okay.
but I would say far better.
1,000 times better.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So good.
so I mean, we went through yesterday, we spent hours there. A lot of fun even for me, being completely outside of the Star Trek universe. I don't know much about it at all, but I mean, and it's a museum piece, so I thought it tried to be a little bit educational, but I mean, it was fun, it was down to earth, it was accessible to everyone, I think, and yeah, we had a really fun time. Sean did phaser training. He used a tricorder on a Klingon. Oh, is that right?
What's a tricorder?
Like the medical scanning device.
Diagnosis and heals injuries.
Yeah.
So did you feel this was like sort of a ballot test of how you would do
Yes.
a Starfleet?
You do all of the, like, you know, you do communications and science and medicine.
You learn
and
Klingon.
you learn Klingon. Yeah, you do. So you do a little bit of everything.
Mhm.
And then in the end they tell you if they would take you, and if so, which area you should be in.
And the finale is you do the Kobayashi Maru test,
Mm-hmm.
which is on the bridge
Yeah.
of, well, it's not necessarily the Enterprise, but it's the Starship bridge, and it's cool.
Is the bridge where they all take their seats and he
Yeah.
starts giving his orders?
Yeah.
So do you get a seat?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Really, eh?
Yeah.
Do you get to be the captain?
you can be. That's not one of the test stations, but there's a captain's chair that there's a photo op afterward.
Oh, really? Eh?
Yeah.
Did you get a uniform?
You can buy them in the gift shop.
But lots of people arrived with their own.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So we went through, like, we got to like plot navigation courses, and we got to be teletransported.
Yeah, teleported.
Teleported, sorry.
Oh, actually, it is
So-
transported, but
Well, whatever.
Where do you get teleported to?
Well, wherever you want. I picked somewhere less rainy. So yeah, you just get to do all of this stuff, and then at the end, like, I'll email you the results, so you get to take home this stuff. You get a little certificate. You get to see all your strengths and your weaknesses.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so Sean got recruited
Okay.
to be an engineer, to be the Simon Pegg.
Okay.
Mhm.
What was your weakness?
well, I mean, it's not exactly a weakness. It shows you like where your strongest ones are as
Okay.
opposed to your weakest, because it's broken down by the different positions. So there's engineer, tactical, communications, navigation, science, command. There might be a seventh, but I'm not sure. Anyway, and Jay was command.
Nice.
Of course.
Yeah.
I sure was. But yeah, we had a fun day. You get to do like a Star Trek selfie, where you like make yourself an alien race.
Okay.
So it was a really fun day. It was a rainy day yesterday, so it was a great museum day. You
Yeah.
walk around in one of their big hangars out there. And yeah, we really enjoyed it. And it seemed like everybody there was
I think
was
so.
enjoying it. There were like kids and older people,
There's
and
a ton of people.
Yeah.
Very busy.
Mhm.
And rightly so. Like, I do think it was only like $18, I think. So,
that's for the museum and the exhibit.
yeah.
Yeah, so it was a good afternoon. It's there in Ottawa until September 5th, but it's a traveling exhibit, so it'll be all around. So lots of people should get the chance to do it, and I think you should.
Absolutely. If you can get there, then do it. If you're even a little bit of a Star Trek fan, I think there's something for you. Because we didn't even mention, like, they have a whole bunch of stuff to look at while you're walking around. They have like a Borg outfit. They have like
Tribbles
tribbles, Data's head, and
and
like,
the little Spock ears and
yeah, that's right.
the moles.
That's
Yeah,
what you get into the next generation then.
it's everything.
It's everything.
There's parts of the movie.
It's all across. Like, that's when you go to each of the departments, it shows you the Hall of Fame, and it'll be everyone from
All the doctors
from
from throughout all the
various
series.
TV series.
Yeah. So yeah, it was a fun day.
Yes, it was.
All right, I guess that's it from us. Thanks for joining us. Bye.
Bye.